All right. All right, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Prodigy's Simply Fit podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Hamill, and today I am joined by Judy Nannini, who is one of our, I don't want to say newest members. She's about a year into membership here at Prodigy. Unfortunately, her old gym closed down last year, and we were fortunate enough to have her along with a couple of other of her gym member friends join us, and it's been an awesome ride ever since. So Judy is a busy mom. She's a working professional. She's somebody who has made fitness very much a part of her lifestyle. She's super consistent at our kind of early morning sessions, and so I wanted to bring Judy on to talk about her journey, how she got started, kind of what keeps her consistent, and more importantly, have her give you guys some tips and tricks that you guys can use to potentially get started if you are on the fence. So Judy, first off, thank you so much for joining me. And if you don't mind, could you kind of give people a little bit of history into your kind of fitness background, and then kind of what was that initial push to get you started, however many years ago it was?
Yeah, well, thank you, Andrew, for having me. I love to share my story. So yes, as a busy mom of two, my fitness journey started when I was about 28. Growing up, I had played lots of sports, but I never really worked out. Like, I don't know if it was just back in the day or in that time when you're young, you don't really work out. You're just playing sports. I went through 5 years of figure skating, 7 years of dance, um, a lot of basketball, volleyball, tennis. I started when I was 10, and that was the one sport that I stuck with for a long time through high school and even a little bit in college. Um, it was great. But then I got married, had two kids, and you just kind of forget about your active lifestyle that you had growing up. So when I was 28, I literally woke up one day and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm too young to have these like weird aches and pains. And I was playing tennis. I like slowly got back into the tennis game at that time. I went back to the court, start taking like beginners lessons just to kind of loosen up and get back on the feel of, what it's like to be playing tennis. And I was thinking, like, wow, this is like not normal. Like I used to be so much more limber and so much faster on the court. Like, what's going on here? And I started my own fitness journey. Like, okay, my work offered a gym, so I started working out there. I got myself a trainer because I didn't know what I was doing in the gym. Like, it was just all very new because growing up, I didn't work out in a gym. I was on the court or on a field or, in a dance studio. So it's very different. But that same discipline of learning and practicing your skill kind of came into play in the gym for me. So like I said, I got a trainer back then, but it wasn't really working for me. And my old gym, which I was with for like nearly seven-ish years, they taught me and made me feel comfortable in a group class like, hey, this is how you lift. This is how you do this exercise. Here is how the patterns go. This is the movement. And it was really easy. It just immediately I felt comfortable around the people because I realized, oh, everyone is in here for their own reasons, but they all have this goal of, getting healthier, getting better, feeling better, or having their own me time. But most people I found in the gym they're there for them, right? They don't care what you're doing. They don't care if you don't know what you're doing. But there are people who are super nice who like if you're doing something wrong, like you're about to injure yourself, they would come over and say, hey, be careful, don't do this, or try this, or it was just I found it to be a very helpful community. And obviously that's the same community that you fostered in your own gym as well, which is great. So we love that we found you guys and joined you guys. But that's my story. It's just discovering, as you're kind of aging, you want to move a little bit more the way you used to, whether it's recapturing my youth or whatever. But I just want it to be me, like the me that I know. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think, I want to circle back to a point that you brought up where it's like, which I think it happens to a lot of people, especially moms, right? And sorry if you guys can hear that truck behind us. life happens, right? You become adult, you finish college, whatever, maybe you get married, you have kids, and then all of a sudden you forget about you and you forget about making yourself a priority. And, one thing that I talk to, a lot of our prospective members about, especially moms, is, in order to be the best version of yourself, you have to take care of yourself, right? You have to invest in your health. And I think that, whether it's, going for walks or doing whatever, having that me time that you mentioned too is I've heard that a lot from a lot of our members, where they come in, they're like, hey, this is just my hour to, unplug and not be bothered by the kids or by work or whatever, right? It's just my me time. And I think that's so important for people, is kind of finding that balance of just getting yourself that hour or so to invest in your health, because in that way you're going to be the best mom that you can be, the best husband, wife, best business professional, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I'm a much nicer person when I work out. Like otherwise, it's just, I have a slightly shorter fuse or less patience. But when I work out, all of that excess energy, attitude, whatever it is, just kind of it comes out. And then I feel calmer, like internally, I feel calmer, steadier, more balanced. And it kind of shows. Like people I've worked with for a long time, they will know, like, okay, did you miss your workout this morning? And it's like, yeah, I did. And they're like, okay, let's just not have this conversation anymore.
Yeah.
Then, and it shows, and it really lets me be like at least maybe not the best version of myself, but at least a better version. And with kids, teenage kids, especially now with distance learning and everyone's in the house. I mean, I will, you still have your moments as a parent, right? But I'm definitely much more tolerable of a lot of things that goes on today.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's another really awesome point that people often overlook, right? They think of like, oh, I'm going to work out, or even like if you think about eating better and things like that because of my physical appearance, but it's very much the mental aspect of it as well, right? I remember when we implemented our why wall here, one of the first things that somebody wrote on the wall was sanity, right? And I was like, yeah, like I'm here for my mental health and well-being very much as much as I am my physical, health and well-being. So I think that's another big point for people to realize is, working out is very much a mental thing, and allowing your body or allowing your mind to cope with the craziness that is, our day and age right now.
Yeah.
So you've been, like I said, you were at, your previous gym for, let's say 7, 8 years, 9 years, whatever it was. You've been with us for about a year. What has allowed you, or what has helped you be so consistent? Like what have you found is kind of those things that have said, hey, like it's a part of my lifestyle now, like, right, if I don't wake up and I go to the gym, like I don't feel right, or whatever it is, like what has been that kind of guiding factor for you?
It's definitely a lifestyle, and I didn't even realize it became my lifestyle until probably went on vacation once, and I got up, it's a different time zone, but I still got up and everyone else is sleeping, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go work out. And you kind of realize I don't want to say I can't live without it, but it's just part of the routine for me. It's my time. It makes me feel better. It helps me start my day. One of the things that I love about working out in the morning is having my ladies, the community that I work out in, having those people around me. It helps me start my day right. I could get up on like the wrong side of the bed, but I know if I go work out, I will see happy faces. I will see a inspirational coach, trainer, ways that look like if I just move them, I will feel better because it's an accomplishment, right? The military says like the first thing you do is you make your bed. It's an accomplishment, and it kind of sets a tone. Well, for me, that's the gym. Yeah. And having been able to incorporate that, it really starts my day right. And maybe that's why I work out in the morning, or maybe because working out in the morning is like my me time. I don't deprioritize it later in the day, but it really starts my day right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as far as consistency, I mean, that's pretty much what drives it, because I want to have a good day. I mean, nobody wakes up saying like, oh, I want to have a bad day, right? So you want to have a good day. So that helps me but also seeing the people, Anna, Jane, the friends that I have made there. I mean, they're probably, because they see me at my sometimes best and sometimes worst, you know.
Yeah.
I find them to be like a great support system.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So that keeps me going there. But ultimately, I think it's the adrenaline that I get and the endorphins that I get out of working out. And I want that. It's like it's my vice. Like I need that in the morning. So that's what keeps me going.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point, right? And it's kind of the, if you do struggle, right? And I think there's often, I would say it's more often than not, right? People struggle, working out by themselves, right? Hence why a gym like ours is so powerful, is because we're building in that community, that accountability for you, right, to help keep you consistent, right? Until it becomes a routine to where you're on vacation and everyone else is sleeping and you're like, hey, I'm just gonna go work out, like it's part of my life now. But I think the other thing too is, it's like it could be very it's very addicting in terms of that accomplishment, right? And I've heard the same thing too about the military and making the bed and kind of starting your day with an accomplishment. So starting your day with an accomplishment, but also that addictive feeling of those endorphins and things like that is something that absolutely can keep, keep you consistent. What has been maybe like a time, like, has there ever been a time where you felt like you struggled to be consistent, or to kind of, like maybe more of an extended period of time, as opposed to just like, hey, it is Monday morning, I just didn't feel like waking up today?
Um, Struggle. There was. I'm a creature of habit. I like routine. So there are definitely times where if I don't work out, it is really hard for me to get back on the wagon. Um, but it's baby steps. Um, I don't I don't think my personality would allow me at this point to ever stop working out. Um, so that would be hard for me. It would be very difficult to break that habit now. But as far as what's helped me stay on track is just really having that fostering the community, and it's just an addiction. But what I always have to remember about getting back on the wagon is seeing my friends there, working out with them, and helping everyone through it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also remember as a newcomer, like I wanted to be there, but I was scared and I was nervous. I was afraid of failure, or like messing up, right?
Yeah.
And I think now I have the mentality of like, when I fail, that's a good thing because I
Yeah.
know I've pushed myself to my limit.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of like a no fear. I know I'm not going to get hurt in there. I've got people spotting me. I've got people watching me. Um, so it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And that helps knowing that I can be consistent and I can keep pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think those are good points, because I think, a lot of times when people, you and I were kind of talking before we hit record, and about, I often have conversations with people, and they're like, oh, well, I'm not in shape enough to come work out at your gym yet. Right. And it's like, no, like that's the point of coming to the gym, is to you're not going to be perfect, and it's not going to be always correct, and there's going to be even the most seasoned person, right, with let's say a deadlift, for example, right, there's always going to be that one rep where like, let's stay back on your heels, and you've been doing deadlifts for 9 years, right? Like it's never going to be 100% perfect. But like if you go into that mindset of, hey, I'm here to get better, I'm not going to be perfect, I may mess up, like that's okay. And especially at our facility, right, no one's going to laugh at you, no one's going to make fun of you, everyone's going to support you. And I think we often we often, even myself, right, even outside of the gym, right, we often kind of go to this and create these fears that like are bigger than they really are, right? Like like for example, for me, like I'm a very introverted person, outside of the gym. So sometimes talking to like just complete strangers, like I create like this huge like fear thing in my head of like, they're gonna like, bite my head off or something. When in reality, it's not as bad as it is, right? And it's same with walking into a gym. Like, if you find the right setup, it's not an intimidating place. It's actually a really awesome place for you to come in and kind of, like you said, like practice failure, right? Because failure is a good thing, because that means you're learning and you're experiencing and you're getting better. So if somebody were to approach you and say, they listen to this podcast episode and they say, Judy, I want to be like you one day, right? Like I want to be like you one day, right? I want to look back on my journey 9-10 years into it and say, wow, like this is really part of my lifestyle, but I have no idea like where to get started, what to do. Like, what are maybe like 2 to 3 tips that you would have for somebody to like help them get started?
Well, one, definitely hit me up and come work out with me. I will make it so fun. And they would get to see a side of me that they've never seen before. So that's tip number one. Number two is just, you have to want it. Like, you will recognize when you want it and know why you want it. If it's vanity, great, use it. Use it to bring yourself into the gym. If it's about getting healthier, great, use that as your motivation for getting into the gym. But you have to have your own goals, and your goals don't have to match anyone else's, but just recognize that you have your own reasons, your own goals for wanting to work out, for wanting to join a gym, for wanting to be in this environment. But you have to want it. You can't, other people, no one is going to be able to force you to it. They can introduce you there, but no one can actually force you to get healthier and get fit and join a gym. You have to want that for yourself. So I mean, tip number 2 is really just be honest with yourself and what you want. um and another thing is just be present in there. When you're there, you're doing it for yourself. You have your own goals, but you're doing it for yourself. If you're doing it for other people, unless that is your motivation, like if you have kids, if you're a grandparent and you want to be able to hold them up, like great, but make sure that you are ready and you're in the present of mind when you're there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's awesome. And I think that just in general, right? Like being present is a huge thing, especially in our day and age where, everything is so, we got squirrel syndrome and we're all over the place and right. And I catch it too. I catch myself doing it too, where maybe you're in front of somebody, but right, you're mentally, you're often in another place. And it's really about focusing on being present and really focusing on, like in the gym, right? Present and focusing on yourself, I think is huge. And I think, another one that I often talk about is, really focus on like baby steps, right? Like it's not going to be perfect right away, right? Like you brought up, like being an athlete as a younger, right? When you were learning how to play tennis or you were learning dance or, whatever it may be, like it didn't come naturally to you, right? Like it took you, a couple of times before you start to get things. And what I tell people is like working out is very much a skill, right? Like, doing a deadlift or a squat or even a push-up or things like that. It's not going to come if you're not familiar with working out, like it's not going to come naturally right away. Like it's a skill that you have to learn. It may take you 1 or 2 sessions before you start to get it. And then you're like, oh, okay, like I got it now. But like, it's just taking those baby steps and not focusing on having to be perfect right away, I think is another big one too. All right. Anything else?
Anything else?
Use a
Come
lot of
work out
chalk.
at Prodigy. Oh yes. Oh, I love using chalk. It's half the fun. Putting my handprint all over the place, making a mess. But we do clean it up. So
Yes. So for those of you guys who are not members of Prodigy, Judy is our queen of chalk. We use chalk for grip, right? If that's a little tip and trick there, if you're able to find chalk and use chalk, helps with your grip. Judy seems to think it's fun to put handprints all over the gym with her chalk. So
claiming my territory, but it's very welcoming territory.
It is.
Yeah, no, I love that you offer all of the things, a lot of the things to help with a lot of the movements and the exercises, introducing the wrist straps for landmine rows, for pull-ups and chin-ups, using them on deadlifts, like it's helped tremendously. There are, I think for a lot of the workouts, if we think technically about it, um, there's always technique, there's always form, very important things. And I very much appreciate a trainer, a coach like yourself who is watching out for me. Um, but also having additional little handicaps or tools to help reach certain goals is great. The chalk for me, yeah, it's a grip thing, but it also protects my hands because I don't want to use gloves. My hands are small enough as it is. I can't use gloves and do pull-ups. Like I would not be able to grab the bar.
Yeah.
So having the right tools, I think, is very important in a gym. And I am, I'll say I'm lucky that you let us use chalk or let me use chalk and make a mess of
Yeah.
every time.
No, of course, of course. And yeah, you're right. Like having the right tools is crucial, right? Like, a couple of weeks ago, we recorded a podcast with Scout Judd, who's the owner of Fleet Feet, and we talked about kind of running and getting in, kind of implementing running in 2021, for example. And she talked about it very much, right? Having the right tools in terms of the right shoes, right? Like if I go for a run and as you know, right? Because we have a couple of different pairs of shoes, right? Like shoes that are a little bit flatter and less kind of cushiony are actually better for weightlifting and doing squats and deadlifts, whereas they're not going to necessarily be the best for long distance running, and vice versa, right? Like long distance running shoes are going to be a little bit more cushy, a little bit more padded, but they're not the best for lifting heavy weights, for example, right? But having the right tools, if you don't have the right shoes, you're not going to be successful running, right? Or if you don't have the right tools with the weight room. So it's finding that environment where you're able to have those right tools will help make sure that you're successful as well along your journey. And I even think like having the right tools in terms of a support system, right? Like you've got your girls, you guys are, always there. You're always pushing each other, right? So I think that's absolutely kind of a tool in the tool belt that helps keep you kind of moving forward and kind of being forced to add weight if even yeah. Things like that, right? Like you're kind of forced to push yourself a little bit because you got your girls with you and things like that.
Yeah, and we're not like, we call ourselves SSAM for sexy 6 a.m. It's for men and ladies, and or whatever you prefer to label yourself, if you label yourself. But essentially, it's just having your own group, being able to join them, and we certainly welcome everyone where they're consistently at 6 a.m. You can find us there at 6 a.m. At least one of us, for sure. We certainly don't let each other off the hook, not without permission, at least. But that support system is actually probably what kept us together going, from gym to gym together. And it's critical in my success and probably their success as well. But I hope it's certainly not intimidating for anyone when they see us, because I think having a group who, we're a little bit loud, a little bit boisterous at 6 a.m., but we feed off of each other's energy in that sense. And we've tried to, pull a couple people in with us, and we've been successful. They're still a little shy, but I think they're becoming more and more comfortable. I know, what we do as far as our workouts can be a little bit intimidating, and people do shy away. And there's a lot of myth about like, women bulking up when they're lifting heavy. But the thing is, my weight will fluctuate, but I just keep getting stronger every time and losing weight. I can lose weight and get stronger at the same time by lifting heavier. But lifting heavier should not be intimidating. And I know it is a little bit to some of the people around us. but we're not a clique. It's a support system for each other to keep pushing.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I think that's a great point, right? And that's actually probably a topic of a future podcast episode that we'll have. But the idea of, like lifting weights, especially for ladies, right? Like that's a huge myth that still needs to be debunked on a daily basis. But it's not intimidating as it's more empowering, right? Like even, even for guys, right? Like we have all of our guys in here and they're lifting heavy and they're like, man, like it's so awesome to, to feel that way and feel empowered and things like that. So definitely, no, it's a future episode. We'll get to that in a little bit, but don't shy away from lifting heavy if you're listening to this.
Just do it.
Just do it.
You'll feel accomplished.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to wrap this up. So yes, if you want to come learn how to use chalk at the gym, you can check in with Judy. I'm kidding. I appreciate your time, Judy. I want to respect that. So we're going to end the episode unless you have anything else for anyone listening, any other additional tips or tricks.
Just do it. Come join Prodigy. Go to any gym. Do it for yourself. It's a good journey to be on.
Absolutely. All right. Well, in that ending, I will sign off. So I appreciate you guys listening to this episode of Prodigy's Simply Fit podcast. I will see you all next week.
Thank you, Andrew.